So today I had delivered an egg chair for the garden. So it's one of those big chairs with a nice big comfy seat and it goes up, protects me from the sun. I've wanted an egg chair for about 6 weeks. It took me 4 weeks to find the one I wanted. Every day, websites looking for more products, because I knew I wanted it brown. I wanted a white cushion. I wanted a shape like an onion, not like an egg. I was being very, very picky, basically. What I found on my journey, I used Google Shopping, I used retailers and back search them, but I could just never find the one I wanted. I was definitely going to buy one. I would have spent way too much money to have the one I wanted in brown, not in white. And this is where recommendations come in powerful. If any of those websites over 4 weeks had have seen what I was searching for, what I was interacting with, and then recommended the right products to me, they would have had my money and perhaps a lot more money than the final retailer did have. So this is where recommendations come in really important. Obviously, product exposure is important. So having products on display, great, but having the right ones that what customer is looking for. Especially for you, things like maybe cuts, colors of items, materials, that is the sort of things where we can actually use that personalization, not just at do they want to look at bags or t-shirts, but more what style, what does that person actually want? And that's where personalization comes in. We can show bestsellers, but if we're showing you t-shirts that just, I mean, for me personally, I don't tend to have any blue clothes. So if you recommended blue clothes to me, I'm probably not even going to have a little look. It's things like that that are really important and really change where a customer's coming from. So what we're going to look at today is what can we use in Fresh Relevance to recommend products. We'll probably hang around on things that I think is particularly good for triggered emails, but we can talk about use cases for other things as well. So I'm going to be very quick here because I think we all know what product recommendations look like. We show someone a product. We can also show different information with that, things like prices, ratings, popularity messaging, all through other modules with Fresh Relevance. So just to give you a bit of a flavour, we have ratings down here. So that's our social proof module. Also, we can have tags like new in, bestseller, 20 people have purchased today. All of that comes through with the social proof as well. With our new editor, you can build out things in many different styles as well. So perhaps we'll take a look at that. But how do we actually decide what we're going to do? We know we want to show products, but what products and why? So there's three main considerations that I recommend. Firstly is what is your objective? What do you want to achieve? Obviously, you want conversions. That's nothing extra special. But what else do you want to achieve? Is it that you want to increase basket size, so order value, or do you want to be, I don't know, increasing sales in a particular category, or do you have any products with smaller or bigger margins that you want to push people towards buying? It might also be that you have an objective based off something you've seen. So if you have sort of Google Analytics or any tracking software, are there any pain points in your site? Are there any pages where people are bouncing a lot? Where are you having problems that we could put recommendations in? A really good example is that I've noticed that a lot of our customers will take website, for example. Oh no, we use a cart abandonment email. So you've abandoned a basket, but that wasn't the product you wanted. If you're like me, I put lots of things in my cart and then delete out what I like least because I can't spend £300 on clothes again. So by looking at that cart, do we know that people want to buy those products, or are those just ones they're interested in? So we can show recommendations, and the objective here is to show other products that might be more effective. So showing maybe similar products, because if you've put a t-shirt in your cart, maybe you've got an occasion where you want a t-shirt, or I guess party dresses, those sorts of things. Particularly for sort of clothing, perhaps there's a particular event that people are wanting to buy for certain categories. So there, your objective might be as simple as click-throughs to site because you want to give people wider breadth, or you might want to show things that you think will convert more highly. Next thing is the location and campaign. Obviously, we've already spoke about triggered emails, but between your cart abandonment, your browse abandonment, and maybe your post-purchase emails, so they're the 3 triggers you could have, there's different tactics within. So for a browse abandonment, perhaps it's showing bestsellers because people have just looked around and they've not found anything that took them over the edge. And maybe it's highly rated products. Whereas a cart abandon, maybe it's similar products, or maybe we show other things that they browsed but didn't cart. So there's lots of different ideas, even across those 3 touch points within those campaigns, that might change what approach you want to take. The final thing, and perhaps really the most important, is that customer journey. So a customer has come to your website. What are they trying to achieve? Where are they at that point in time? So things like bestsellers, I think, work really nicely on a home page. But if I'm on a product page, then really, I think other products within the same category or similar products are probably going to be more effective, because that customer has gone to the point of finding a product they're interested in. So we know that they're part way to discovering what they're looking for, so we can build upon that. If we take let's take a newsletter example. So, sorry, email example. So if you are going to use recommendations in your welcome campaign, for example, maybe you want to curate that with sort of with 4 products that show your range the best. Or maybe it's bestsellers again, because if they're popular for new people, that's probably going to pull them in. So again, it's thinking about, between these 3 pillars, what do you want? What does the customer want? And where are you contacting them, essentially? The final thing to consider is about A/B testing. So there's lots of different options here. I'll show you on the next slide. There is more. So my next slide is slimmer. But there is so much you can do, and the only way you're going to know what your perfect mix is by testing them. So you have a good idea that you want to increase basket size, but how much could you show in terms of more expensive products? Can you show products that are £20 more expensive than normal, or only £10? So even within particular tactics, there's some tweaks that can really take it to the next level. Any questions or thoughts at this point?
No. For the moment, no.
Lovely. So next, I just have a bit of a summary about what we can do in Fresh Relevance. So all of these are available to you, regardless of what modules you have, but obviously you can only put them in your cart abandon or browse or purchase at the moment. So we'll start at the top, and the first one is our AI recommendations. So we have a script on your website. That's how we know when people are abandoning carts. But what we're doing is we're watching what people are doing and seeing across all of this, all of these engagements, all of the browsing, all of the carting, all of the purchasing. What would people buy? So let's say Christina looks at this white t-shirt and then a pair of trousers, and then goes on to buy a scarf. If Barbara, you look at the same t-shirt, the same trousers, we can guess that you might buy the scarf as well. That's a very odd example, but just to give you a bit of a flavour of how that works. So that's when we see people like you buy or people like you browse. So depending on whether you're looking for conversions or exploration, might be the change there. So perhaps a homepage of your website, for example, people like you browse is a nice one because it's going to enable people to find more products, whereas people like you buy is going more for a conversion. So I'd say people like you buy probably better for your emails if you're going to use it there. We then have purchase together. This is something that you could use in a cart abandonment email, for example. So if someone has abandoned a t-shirt, you could show them trousers that people tend to buy together. So you can start to create sets, for example. That basically looks at what people are buying together. So if lots of people are buying this t-shirt and these trousers, then our system's going to work out that that's a good match there. We then have after viewing people buy. So again, that product exploration, but it helps people to find the right product. So after people look at this pair of shoes, they actually buy this pair of shoes. So it's then again trying to direct people further down that funnel. In our next category here, we have similar products, and this is where your power is going to lie in terms of abandonment emails. I would say that both your browse and cart abandonment should use similar products to help people to find other products within what they're already looking at. So similar products works by taking things like the name, any descriptions, any tags, so like categories. I think, does it take price points? I'm going to check on that one. I can't remember whether it does do price points. Asking myself questions now. But it takes in all that information and then works out what's similar. And you can customize this as well. So if this is something you want to use, but you feel like the system's not quite getting you there, we can have a little play around with the data. So that's the similar products. The next category down, we have person history. So again, I think this is quite a nice one to add into your abandonment emails, maybe your cart abandonment. And we can actually present back the products that that person has interacted with, whether that's purchase, whether that's carted, whether that's browse. So for example, I have a retailer that I go to and I buy black vest tops from them. I had a real problem. I like vest tops, just plain black. I don't want frills. I don't want anything fancy. And there's one retailer that always does them and the quality is good. So for me, if you showed me the products that I purchase a lot, so it would show me the black t-shirts. So if you have any products that tend to be fairly replenishable, or things that people would repurchase, I'm a sucker for pajamas as well. So you can re-recommend things people have engaged with before, so have purchased before, or things that they put in their cart, or things that they browsed. So I would suggest for your cart abandonment email, for example, that you actually have two sets of recommendations. The first one I would put in would be similar products, and I'd use that based on the cart or the browse. I'll show you that in a moment. And then I'd have a second set, which would be products that they browsed but didn't cart. So other things that they might have been interested in. They've already cared enough to click into the product page, and do they need to reconsider that again? It might be that actually that isn't what you're looking for, and that one of your main drivers of purchases is something less personalized, which is where we come to this bottom bucket. And that's when we start to look at generally how are products performing. So what are your best sellers? What are most browsed? Or what's new in? So what have you recently added to your product stock that we're recognizing for the first time of late? So these are all different ways that you can start to think about how you want to pick products. So what methods do you want to take? I'll just pause here. Is there any questions or thoughts on these?
No, for the moment, no.
No. Did you think there were this many options possible in Fresh Relevance? Because there is still a little more for you. So we've talked about how we can pick products. Next is the what. So what products do we want to pick? This is something that's completely optional, so you don't have to add any filters on. Well, you don't have to add any of these filters on. I think you might have some filters for currencies because you work across multiple markets. Is that right? I can double check later. So you might use some, but some other filters that you can use that will just help you be more dynamic with customers. So one thing is tags. In our system, tags are basically categories. So I imagine you're going to have tags for things like t-shirts, trousers, shoes. You might also have tags for colours or for styles or for cuts. It's all what we're picking up off your website. The best way to have a look would be to go into one of your products and just see what's tagged against it. But I can point you there in future if you're interested. But what we can do with tags is we can have them work dynamically. So we can have that we want to show bestsellers, but that we want to show bestsellers within someone's most browsed category. So let's say I come to the website, I'm always looking at t-shirts because that's what I look at. Barbara, she's a dress girl, she only wears dress, and Christina, you absolutely love shoes. So we want to show bestsellers, but the relevant categories for each of us. So we can add what's called the best tag value filter, which will essentially look at what your most preferred category is. We can limit it to one category or make it more. So maybe the top 3 categories you look at. We can also be more specific. So if you do, if we enable what we call product variants, so if we start to recognize that in this t-shirt you have it in blue, white and red, then what we can do is actually use the color to then target it. So you could be showing me green t-shirts because I tend to look at green things and I tend to look at t-shirt. Barbara's got some pink dresses being shown because obviously the pink t-shirt. And then Christina, you're looking at silver shoes. So we can start to really get into what people's actual affinities are. What is it that that customer wants? But without you having to figure it out, our system will do all of that for you. We can also do things like exclude activity. So probably, yeah, no, this is a good one. So for example, we can exclude products that have been purchased. So if someone's already purchased that t-shirt, do we want to recommend it to them again? Are they likely to buy 2 of the same t-shirt in such a short space of time? So we can make sure that we're using that. But we can also make sure we deduplicate across them. So if you do start using these in your cart abandonment, browse abandonment, you take on the email module, the web module, you've got it every page of your website, every email you send out. If we use something like people like you buy, our system's going to keep showing the same products. So what the system allows you to do is make sure each time you contact someone, you're showing something new. We're never getting stuck in that same old, same old. And then the final thing here is price points. So we can look at a product's price. You can recommend, say, t-shirts under £50. So you can add a filter saying under £50 and one saying that they must be in a particular tag group, so t-shirts. We can also look at people's previous behaviour. So what price points does Barbara tend to purchase at? And then we can show products within 20% of that amount. So if you tend to spend about £50 per product, then we can start to look at recommending between products that sit between £40 and £60, for example. We can do, yeah, there's so much flexibility. And again, It's all about the optimization. So making sure you're trying different things, seeing which one works. So I think that was everything in my slides. Any questions here?
No, but it's very interesting.
Awesome. So next, what we can do is hop into the system. So let me just log in. So we'll look through the demo store just because obviously we're recording this session, so we won't get any of your data up on the screen. You'll see lots of things about snowboards and skiing, but obviously just imagine that's t-shirts and trousers or something to help. So we are just in our page here. So to get to recommendations, we're going over to the side here into content and then into smart blocks. Now here you have two options. Until a couple of months ago, we had our builder. So probably what you've seen before, all of the blocks will sit here and it might look something like this is what the default used to look like. Do you recognize this sort of layout of recommendations at all? Nope.
No.
Okay, that is really good news for you because it means I can just teach you the new stuff and we can forget that the old stuff ever existed. So here we can see all of your different smart blocks. Now it is worth mentioning that you can use any of this content in your triggered emails. So you can add banners in if you want to use coupons, countdown timers. So, you could count down to cut off for fast delivery, for example. So all of this is available to you. Instagram, I don't know whether you use social media, that's a really nice one just to keep content up to date in your emails, for example. But today, let's focus on recommendations. So the first thing we're going to do is actually create a smart block. Now, this is where you get that option to either build in our old flow or our new flow. So our old one's down here, so you can see those templates, but we've got something way better in this beta version. So if you click use the new version, then we'll go through it that way. I think soon we'll swap them over. So rather than new version, it will say use the old version. So you'll land here in future. And then we're into our area. One thing I would say is that it is coming to the end of its beta phase. So it's been in beta for maybe 6 months. So we've found most of the bugs. But if you do find anything, if you just hit that feedback button, send a picture, screenshot of what's going wrong, then they'll take a look at it for you. So now we're creating our smart block. So what you'll see is that we have a few different decision points. And what this is letting the system do is do some of the heavy lifting for you. So let's do something for your cart abandonment email then. It's going to be going via email. So that's our first decision. And then we have different types of email. So we can pick cart abandonment email. Now, what this has done is shown you all of the tactics that we recommend for cart abandonment emails that you can choose from. So I would say similar products to the last abandoned cart is probably the most effective source for your cart abandonment. So we can click into that one. We then get a choice of layouts. These are all completely customizable when you get inside. So really, all we're making a decision about right now is whether we want to have more detail or less detail. To be honest, the detailed ones tend to be for a lot of our travel clients, which have really long descriptions for products. For you, I think this multi-column will be perfect. So if I call this just Fresh Focus Demo, and then I can add it to a folder as well. So I can pop it straight into our folder and click Save. So this is now creating our smart block for us, and it's going to put some things into place. So that slide we just went through with all the different data sources, filters, it's going to do some of that for you. So you don't need to actually set that up. So we've landed in here. I have zoomed in on my screen, which is why it looks quite big, because I've got a big old monitor. But what we have is we have our sort of working pane on the left here, so different tabs for different bits of setup, and a preview on the right here. So I won't go through all of the options. Last time I counted, there was over 120 different options to make this look how you want it to. So things like background colors. So for example, let's say we don't want this line in here. So under the borders and dividers, I can turn off the divider. And it's a nice little toggle, and it will just remove that from the image on the left. We can also change things like text. So we could put chosen for you. And that'll just update things like, do you want it center, left, what color, what size, all the things you'd expect is in here. I'll just show you some of the more exciting options. So we have the ability to show was prices. So if any of your products have dropped in price, we will display underneath the price that the product used to be. So if it was £30, it's now gone down to 25. We'll show the price as 25, but also make sure we surface how much there is of discount. So people will know, yes, I'm getting a bargain there. We can change the buttons as well. So not just the text, but also the style. So you can really make this on brand. On website, you can also have the hover. So it changes color when you hover over, not in email, but on website. Then when you have the social,
Sorry, you can use this banner in our email, for example, cart abandon, and also on the website, like a popover.
Yes, absolutely. You don't have the module for that now, but you can speak to your account manager. The setup is the same. So everything you're learning now is exactly the same if you do go down that road.
So only one setup for recommendation in every touch point we have. Exactly. Is it correct?
It can be. Today only triggered emails from Fresh Relevance. So your cart abandonment, browse abandonment, purchase complete maybe. If you have those set up, you can use in there. But with website personalization or email personalization, you could use either in your emails or websites or both if you take both out.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So the other thing I'll just point you to is the social proof. So we can integrate with your ratings and reviews provider to then display the products back again. This is so effective. I don't know whether you are the same as me when you shop online, but I never buy anything without reading the reviews now. Anytime I do, I regret it. But now I make sure I always check the reviews. So for me, obviously, these are not great rated. So this isn't probably is not enough to pull me through. I think I like to look for 4 stars or above unless there's no options. So the ratings, again, you can style it all. You don't have to have stars. You can have different colors, different logos or images. Whether you want to show the count of the ratings or number of reviews, so many different options that are just on off, which is so nice to use. The final thing is social proof messaging. So again, both of these through the social proof module, but that's the messaging you see here, the popularity of 61 purchased today. And what we have is different messaging that you can show at different thresholds. So for example, we see this one says 59 purchased today. At the moment, we show number purchased if it's over 5. So if I was to change that to 60, and hopefully the products don't refresh, then can we say that, see that now says carted. So we can set different thresholds to show different data about products. We don't have to show carted either. We can turn carted off. And now it will say how many people have browsed. So we can get at and look at purchase cart or browse information, but at different thresholds. We can also use this to do things like bestsellers. So by removing the number, we can say that anything that's been purchased more than 50 times in the last 24 hours, we consider that a bestseller. So you don't have to use the messaging to say this many people bought. You can use it for something a bit more generic, for example. So I think that's everything I wanted to go through on the look and feel. Is there any particular questions or anything you want to know whether you're able to do with how it looks?
No, thanks.
Beautiful. So we'll just make our way through these tabs really. Next one's properties. It's not super exciting, but what you might see us talk about are things called merge parameters. What merge parameters do is they allow you to pass information into the smart block. So an example for you is that we're using similar products on this recommendation. So we want to show similar products to what someone abandoned, but we need to tell this smart block what products were abandoned. Now, you'll be happy to know that it works like magic, so there's nothing you have to do. But what this is doing is passing through information so that it can make decisions. Message of the story, just don't delete these off and you'll have a great time. We then have tags, and these are ways that you can easily find that information. So this smart block. So let's say you've got a particular campaign you're running or anything like that. You can add tags, and this is across all of our different types of smart blocks. Personally, I like to put a tag of my name on, and then I can easily find everything I've created. So it can also be used as a way just to help you work and surface things as quickly as possible. Next, we have our redirects tab. And what this is doing is allowing you to edit what these links are. For recommendations, you'll see we've got some groovy code. Again, just leave that. All that is doing is meaning that when I click on this product, I'm going to this page. When I click on this product, I'm going to this page. When I click on this one, I'm going to that product's page. It's doing something dynamic. If it was a banner, then you would just paste in the URL that you want people to go to on click. We also have the ability to add tracking codes. So if you use Google Analytics or Adobe or something similar, you can pop the values in here and our system will append those to your links. So nothing you have to do. Again, it's going to do the magic for you. Any questions there?
No, thanks.
Fabulous. So next we get to those data and filtering. So that's the slide we looked at before. So when I go to data, what you'll see is that actually it sets some of this up for us. So we said we wanted to show similar products to the abandoned cart, and it's going to do that. We also have the ability to have a fallback. So let's say you have a one-of-a-kind item on your website. Let's say you have a giant teddy bear for Valentine's Day, and you don't sell any other toys or anything remotely similar. So it might be that our system says there isn't anything similar. And that's when we have fallbacks. So it's going to try and do this, and if it can't, it's going to fall back to frequently carted, then frequently browsed. So what is most popular? If I click on one of these drop downs, I'll just use the top one because you can read it easier. And you can see all of the different options that we were starting to talk about earlier. So there's lots and lots in here. I boiled it back. I just want to point you to the AI recommendations. So those were the first category we spoke about. When it comes to similar products, there's a few different types. You're going to want to use the type that is relevant for where you're using it. So for example, for this one, the cart abandonment, we want to use similar products to the last abandoned cart. Whereas in your browse abandonment email, you might want to do similar products to the abandoned browse, for example. We also talked about crowdsource, so what's popular. And when you do select one of these options, you then get another drop down for your data window. So here we're going to show items that are frequently carted over the last 7 days. So depending on how small or large you want to focus on, then you have these different time frames available. One thing we always recommend is that you want to start as personalized as possible and then make sure that you fall back to something that is more generic. And I can show you exactly why. So let's say we use something people like you buy. So that's the one where we can see people looking at these products tend to buy that. So we can see that you're like that individual. Now, if I turn off the fallbacks, what we will find is that I'm not seeing any products anymore. And I'm not seeing anything because the system doesn't know who I am. I've not identified myself on the website, for example. We don't have any information about Daisy Gray or what she likes. So we can't make that decision. So it's really important that we always add in a fallback, which is something generic, something where we don't need to know anything about that individual. So for example, looking at things that are crowdsourced, so looking across your whole website, like frequently browsed, most purchased. Or we have things like new products, or something as generic as all products. So it doesn't have to be something specific, but that way we're going to make sure everyone sees something. The best way to check this is working is that in this drop down here, I can preview as an unidentified person. So as someone who we know nothing about, which is just going to make sure that that it works. Because for you guys, I imagine as far as your website's concerned, you have a lot of history from generally navigating around. So it's always good to make sure that if it's not your email address, does it still work? Any questions on that one, the data sources?
I have a question, yeah. By changing the primary data source, we are changing the tactic that we have defined previously, that's right? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So when you pick the tactic, it's presetting these for you. So if we picked a different tactic, it would look exactly the same, but these options would be different. Fabulous. So our last stop really is on filtering. So this is when we said what products we want to be able to select. And you'll see that it's already done some bits for you. So it's already making sure it's going to work with any currencies or any site brands, any languages that you're operating across. So before, that used to be very painful. So as boring as it sounds, this is one of my favorite bits of the system now. We're also making sure we exclude anything that was purchased over the last 30 days. So by default, these filters will be there. Oh, and making sure that there's a picture for the product, just in case there's any capture issues. But we can add more. So we can add in things like, I think the best one to show you first is the product field. So we can pick particular products based on what we know about them. So if I click on here, we can see all sorts of things. So I can actually put in the name of individual products if I wanted to. I could look at products with certain stock levels, so making sure that there's at least 5 in stock, let's say, of any given product. And particularly if you're using things in email, then you might want stock levels to be a bit higher because of obviously delays in sending, things like that. But in particular, we have tags. So I mentioned that tags are helping us to categorize products. So I can say that I only want to show, let's say, products that are, let's say, ski boots, because it's all skiing. So for you, it might be trousers. And all you need to do is type it in this box. So if I type in boots, then I can select that. And now it's only going to show us boots. So if I go to preview, oh, I've not fixed those data sources. There you go, getting caught out myself there. Let's put this to all. It is our demo environment, so it can fall over sometimes because there isn't really a website. Nope, I'm guessing we've deleted our boots from the system. So you'll have to trust me on that one. For anything that I don't want, I can just grab it and drag it into the left here. We also have, and this is probably my favorite, is the best tag value. So that's the one where we're dynamically showing people their favorite categories. So again, I can filter to the best, maybe one category. However, for you, I imagine you have people that tend to buy across categories. So people don't just buy t-shirts, they'd buy other items as well. Is that right? So I'm going to assume that you probably want to show maybe your top 3 categories per person. So for me, it's going to be t-shirts, it's going to be trousers, and it's going to be shoes. So it doesn't have to be one, it can be wider based on what I've browsed and then over a period of time. So let's say 90 days. Or maybe you want something that is that's quicker. So for a browser or cart abandonment, I'd go even as maybe 1 day rather than 7, because it's more about what someone is looking for at that moment in time. Some other things we can look at that I mentioned is price points. So that one, I think, fits in the product field. We have the similar price. So that's where we can say that the product must be within 25% either side of either what a product on page or on the average price of products, for example. Again, we've got fallbacks, so we can just say if this one isn't going to return any products, then just ignore it. So it's not going to show no products. We can just say, okay, if we can't find products in the price range, then we just will show whatever we can find. We can actually as well make filters only apply to certain data sources. So for example, we're using people like you buy, then going to all products. So it might be that we use people like you buy, then fall back to all products, but with that category filter. So you can be very, very dynamic in here. Once you have done all of those configurations, you're happy with your data sources, you've done your previewing. One thing to note is that we do actually have a mobile preview in here as well. So you'll be able to see how that will look on mobile, not just desktop. So that's a really nice feature too. There is a couple more options on advanced and location about whether you want to shuffle items or things like that. They're all very self-explanatory, so I won't spend any time looking into those, but just so you're aware they exist. And then you would go click save and use, and then that's where it will give you the options to deploy it and to add it to your triggered email. I'm not sure on your specific setup for triggered emails, but if you get stuck, then just reach out to our support team and they'll help you get it plugged in, really. Because you do need to put it in a specific place within the code, so they can definitely guide you on that front. So I think that was sort of what I had to show you there, and sort of my recommendations for what you could use now, and hopefully a few ideas of what you could use these for in future with other modules. Do you have any questions or any use cases to speak through?
I just want to ask a question. Can we also decide to exclude some specific categories of products? For example, we don't want to show products in outed category.
Absolutely. So it was that product field we were looking at. But actually, I can say, so the field, the product tag, and then I could say it has none of these. And then in here, you would have whatever category you wanted to exclude. So things that come up often is gift cards. We don't really want to recommend gift cards.
Okay.
You can similarly exclude individual products as well. So if I click on product ID, what you'll get is, again, not one of, and then you'll have a list of all of your different products, nice searchable bar, so you can just type in what it is you want to find and click on it. And you can do multiple as well, I believe. So
okay.
keep stacking if you have several products, or like you say, a whole category of products.
Okay, thank you.
You're more than welcome. Anything else?
No, I'm fine. I don't have any further questions.
Fabulous. So hopefully that gave you a bit of a flavour for recommendations. Like I said, there is lots here. I am working on a piece of documentation that just really recommends what setups to use at different touch points. I have one for website already, but I'm working on the email one, so you'll have to hold fire for a little while, I'm afraid. But I will send that over to you as soon as that's ready so that you can have a look. But at the moment, if you've only got it for your browse abandonment and cart abandonment emails, then hopefully you feel like you can get there with the new flow already. So one last question for you. Do you think you're going to go and build some recommendations? Not convinced?
No, it's very interesting. Let's think about it. But yeah, I think it will be important for our business. Barbara?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's such a missed opportunity because you have the ability to do so. I think we see about, I want to say 3 to 5% uplift in conversions from adding them. So it makes a big difference. I might be misquoting that though. So yeah, I think definitely something to at least test out. Do you know how to A/B test in our system? No?
No.
Fabulous. Well, this is also something available to you. So it would sit in, oh, let me leave that. So for you, you would be making your triggered emails, and then you would, sorry, it's not letting me out. Let's try again. So you would be in your triggered emails, and what we would essentially be doing is sending a different campaign to different email, one with recommendations, one without. So you would have your campaign set up already, and this might be what your trigger looks like, for example. Here we go. So at the moment, we're just sending this one email. Let's say that I have built out a test with 2 emails on. For you, it would be with recommendations, without. For us to A/B test, all I need to do is pick this up, drag it on top, and it's done. Click save, and that's going to start sending 50% with recommendations, 50% without. What you'll then be able to do is go to our optimize center, and we will be able to then see comparisons. So I don't think this data is going to work for us, but we could look into the test, and then we'd be able to see the data. So which one is giving you most conversions, which one is giving you biggest average order value, which one is giving you the most click-throughs, for example. So you can measure all those different variables and have them on one chart side by side, which is just so easy to digest what's performing best. And like I said, that's all in what you can do already. Well, hopefully I've shown you some new and exciting things today. We will send this recording over probably tomorrow when my colleague's back. If you do have any questions, or if you want to get started or guidance, then just drop us an email at customer success or have a chat with your account manager. And yeah, we'll be very happy to help you get started with using these.